Welcome to another episode of Write and Shine, Shining Through Your Words series, proudly brought to you by Write and Shine Media House. My name is Magriet Potgieter and I'm your host. Very excited to introduce you to my next guest. Please, Brad, will you introduce yourself and also tell us a little bit more about your book you will be talking about?
Well, hi, Maggie, and hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me here. This is truly an incredible opportunity. And so I'm very blessed. Thank you for having me. But yeah, my name is Brad, and I wrote a book called Take Back Your Life. And the reason I wanted to come on this show is because I had no intention to write a book. I had no intention to publish a book. And so for anyone listening, you just never know how life is going to go. And I wound up following, if that's the correct word, my divine calling, my divine inspiration when it came to writing this book. And so, yeah, I wrote a book called Take Back Your Life. It's all about literally what it says, taking back your life, mentally, physically, spiritually, and especially your health, starting with your health and then branching out from there. So it's all about getting back in tune with your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, and your physical health and your overall well-being. Yeah, and I wanted to come on here, yeah, just to share the backstory with everybody because again, like I just said, I had no intentions to write this book. It never even occurred to me. So
I am very curious, Brad. I told you I'm a curious person. And also why I'm giving you like almost my ugly laugh is because this year I also published a book that I didn't initially want to publish. So please share, this book you didn't want to be published, that's published now.
yeah, so it's crazy, and thank you again for this opportunity to share the story. So I guess I should start when COVID hit. I was working. I had a really good job. I was working as a full-time senior wellness director for a senior retirement center here in my community, and I think it was October, November 2021, kind of in the middle of COVID, I guess. We had a massive outbreak within the facility itself, and so a lot of us just got laid off. All but key personnel got laid off. And so all of a sudden I found myself, I forget how, 49, 50 years old, something like that, at this stage in life where I've got time on my hands. And so what do I want to do? And so just randomly, things started coming to me, and this idea to become a certified health coach program came to me. And so I enrolled in that. And as part of that program, I started thinking, I've always wanted to create a program on this, or I've always wanted to create a program on that, this particular aspect of health or mindset or something like that. So I had enough in savings, and I spent about the next 6 to 8 months creating all these various wellness programs to help, offer online and be a certified wellness and health coach and all of that. And that took about 8 months. And at the end of that 8 months, I didn't know what to do next. So my natural thinking was, okay, I've written these programs, I've developed them. Now I need to start marketing them and
Mhm.
selling. That makes perfect sense. If you ask me, I think if you ask anyone, you develop a program and then you market and sell it. And so I decided, like I always do, I go for a walk every morning. And right before I started this walk, I just kind of randomly, haphazardly reached out to the universe and I asked this question: What do I do next? Like what's next in life? And again, in my brain, thinking I'll market and sell this. Well, as I'm going around the walk, it's about, I don't know, maybe I did about a 3, 4 kilometer walk, maybe half hour, 45 minutes, something like that. I'm coming back to my home, and right as I open the door, literally the universe put these words into me. The universe said this to me: put it in a book.
Aw.
And I went, what? That's the first time I had ever even thought of putting all of this into a book. That was the exact message: put it in a book. And I thought, wow, okay. So I then spent the next probably 4 months taking all these notes and curriculums and everything I had developed and putting it into a book, fine tuning it
Wow.
into a book. And I had to add several other chapters too, because I developed the curriculum not to be a book at all. So I didn't have an intro, there weren't any transitions, it didn't have an ending or anything like that. So it took quite a bit of work. So I spent the better part of 4 months putting it in the book and then putting all these curriculums together, all these chapters together, and then adding the extra chapters that I needed to add for it. And I thought, okay, and the whole time I'm thinking, why am I doing this? Because I'm not going to publish it. I had no intention to publish this book at all. This is where it gets crazy. So after 4 months, I was done. I had this rough draft, rough outline of a book. And because I had written a book before, it was already in like book format. Like it
Yes.
was not on 8.5 by 11. It was on the roughly 6 by 9 or whatever format I use for Amazon. So that actually helped a lot. And I had kind of written it in chapters and sections already, but it was just a format. It was just a draft. No intentions to publish it. Now, jump ahead. Now, this is the funny part. So, thank you so much for letting me share this story.
No,
Now, here's
I enjoy it. This is why the program is here.
this is the funny part. So, 2.5 years go by. 2.5 years go by. I have not touched the book. Same exact thing, publish it. I'm not even thinking about this book. It's the furthest thing from my mind.
Yes.
I get home from work one day, and right as I'm going to open the door, these two words came to me: publish it. That's
What?
all the message I received. That was it. Just publish it. And I knew exactly what the it was: publish
Mm.
this book. But I, excuse me, up until that point, I had no intention, no desire, anything to publish it. And so I thought, oh my goodness. So this was January of this year, January of 2024, when I got those two words, publish it. Now, here's the funny thing. I couldn't remember the name of the book. I couldn't remember
No.
the title. I couldn't remember where on my computer I had stored the file or the rough draft. So I think it was a day or two, maybe 3 days after that, I got on my computer and it took me about 2 hours to find the file again.
No way.
I couldn't even do a search because I couldn't remember the name of the title, Take Back Your Life. I couldn't remember what I had called it. So anyway, after about 2.5 hours of searching on my computer, I found it. And then as soon as I read the title, I was like, oh yeah, Take Back Your Life. That's what I had called it. That's what I had named it because I couldn't even remember. Again,
Wow.
2.5 years have gone by now, where it literally just sat on the computer.
Yes.
It just sat there. And so I dusted it off and I opened up the draft and I realized, wow, there's still a lot of editing and proofreading and rewriting and formatting and all of that that needs to be done. So I spent the better part of January through mid June, I would say, maybe late May, formatting, rewriting,
Mm.
editing, all of that, getting it completely ready, getting the book cover. You got to get a book cover design, all of that stuff. And then finally, early June of this year, so just like 3 months ago, it was finished, it was ready, and I self-published it on Amazon, and the
Well
rest is,
done.
and here we are. Yeah, I'm still pinching myself. I'm very proud that I wrote a book, but it's
Mm.
just funny that I had no intention to write one. And then when I did write it, I had no intention to publish it. And so this is what I say, very much divine calling, divine inspiration, just following the message that I received. So
I love
and then
it.
another part of this funny story. So after I had published the book, I was still asking myself the question, why? Why did I write this book? I didn't even fully understand. Again, I was just following divine direction,
Yes.
literally put it into a book and then 2.5 years later publish it. But I didn't understand the why. Like usually when you go to do a project, you start with why. What is your why for doing this? I didn't fully understand why I wrote this book. And then about August of this year, so about 2 months ago, I met another gentleman, now a coworker of mine. And he was on a contest here in America called The Biggest Loser. I don't know if you've heard of that show or not.
I have.
Okay, yeah, it was a reality show here in America that
Yes.
ran for, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 years. And after many, many, many conversations with him about his experience with the show and whatnot, I kind of mentioned to him randomly, I'm like, you know what? I wrote a book and I wrote it exactly for someone like you. And I wrote this book to be, how do I say this, the antidote to what that show was teaching. Because I realized watching that show, I didn't have a lot of experience with wellness or training or anything while that show was going on. I was still in my journey and getting skills in that. But after talking with him, I realized, you know what? I wrote this book for people like him and to
Mm.
be the anti-Biggest Loser recipe. This is how you should do it because the Biggest Loser created a lot of controversy in America about their methods,
Yeah,
about
it's
how they.
the name, just the title doesn't sit well with me, eh? Like it's such a
Yeah.
cruel
But
name.
the show's not on anymore, and it ended with a lot of controversy and many
Yes.
of the contestants. In fact, there's one contestant here in town that actually won the contest, and I'm still trying to get in contact with him. But he actually won the contest, lost like 250 pounds in 3 months or something. But since that time, through talking with my colleague, he has gained like 90% of that weight back over the
Sure.
last 10 or 12 years. And I realized my book is a safe, slow, easy, sustainable approach to taking back your health,
No,
to
I love
losing
it.
in a safe, slow, easy manner. And it's not just about the physical part of it, it's about creating the new mindset. It's about discovering your why. It's about creating that new identity. Because that's the thing I realized on my journey during my
Hmm.
weight loss journey was it's not about losing weight, it's about becoming a new you. Well, you
Yes.
have to know what that vision is. What is that vision of the new you? And so that's my chapter 2 in my book is, choose your vision, choose your identity or whatever. And then just go from there. And so now I'm just on the process of trying to get the word out and share the message as far and wide as possible. And again, grateful, Maggie, to be able to come on your podcast here and you're allowing me to share my story. I've been wanting to share that backstory for so long. So thank you
That's
very
amazing, Brad. And it will be on Spotify and all these spaces. So, I just want to say I'm so proud of you writing this. Like even if it's sad, like we're big wine drinkers in South Africa. So we do say, the longer the wine is
Yeah,
somewhere,
yeah,
the better it gets. So maybe the same with your book, 2 years
yeah.
not
Yeah,
being worked on.
it's such a, again, after talking with this gentleman who he was a contestant on The Biggest Loser, but I realized, it's such a safe, slow. I really want to emphasize safe, slow, and easy and sustainable approach to weight loss, to health, to longevity, to mental, spiritual development. And
That's
again,
amazing.
my book, it teaches the complete opposite of what that Biggest Loser show did here in America. And I realize now anyone that is on a journey to take back their life, starting with their physical health, everything in our life starts with our physical health. Because if we don't have
Agree.
our physical health, everything else begins to deteriorate around that. It's very hard to have your mental, emotional, spiritual health when your physical health is not there. So that's normally the one that we all start with. It's the one I started with. And then slowly over time, I brought in my spiritual health, my emotional and mental health and all of that. So, but yeah, for anyone on that health journey, you're looking what to do, how to do it, frustrated with anything that doesn't work. Give the safe, slow, easy, sustainable approach a try that is found in my book, Take Back Your Life. So,
You're gonna laugh what happened in my household just before we jumped on. So I've got a few pets, and my
what's that?
son is 18. He's very
Okay.
into his fish. I have to share this. You'll see where I'm going with this. So I caught the fish. He's got two very overweight fish staring
Uh,
at their food. Just before we hopped on, they were like,
what kind of fish are these? Goldfish or?
goldfish, and the one is the one whose name is Prawn is he's in good shape. But the other two are very, and so he actually took away the food that they couldn't see it, and then they started swimming again. So it's just funny, that we talk about all of this, and this just happened. But for me, it's such an interesting way as well to know what influence food has, and our minds, and them staring at the food, like it's such a big day or daily thing for us, what you're going to eat, the decisions, etc. And my question to you would be, Brad, someone like my son, for example, who's 18,
Yeah.
is this a book for him to read as well, for long term?
You know what? It depends. They say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Good
Uh,
answer.
on one hand, I would recommend the book just because there's so much information. I mean, there's 15 years worth of research and development and
Yes.
seminars that I've attended, and every trick, every trade, every wellness tip that I know of, I've put into this book. And so it's a good book to have for your overall wellness journey. Just to, oh, here's an interesting exercise I can do, or here's an interesting technique I can use if I'm feeling depressed, or, something like that. Or, I teach in this book, not just what to eat, but how to eat. So many of us
Mm.
focus on what to eat, fruits, vegetables, blah, 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 but we never focus on what to eat or especially when to eat.
Yes.
When stands for when hunger ensues naturally. So I always say this. Buy a copy of the book, leave it around the house, see if he takes a curiosity to it, and kind of let him explore it at his own time and pace. And, if he picks it up and reads a chapter or two and gets something from it that he can add to his toolbox for later on, then I would say, more power to him. Um, that's the best way I know how to answer that question. Just it's everyone has their own journey and everyone
Mm.
is different. Some people bought the book right away and read every page. Others have bought the book and after 4 or 5 months or only through chapter two or whatever, it's just
Yes.
everybody's different, and you can't force feed anybody anything that they're not ready for. That
Wisdom.
just doesn't work. And the program works best when someone is ready for what the program has to offer. And the only way you know that is just experiment. And I've seen books lying around the library like, oh my gosh, that's exactly the book I need to read right now. So I'll check it out and read it. And it was like you said, it was no coincidence that that book was there on the table for me to see. I can't tell you how many times that happens. I'm like, well, what book do I read next now that I finished
Yes.
this? And literally, this has happened a couple times. Literally, the next day, I'll get a book in the mail from a friend or colleague somewhere. Hey, Brad, I was thinking about you. Thought this book would be perfect for you. It's like, wow, there's my next book. So,
That's amazing. No, I absolutely love it. Are you busy with your next book?
so I've got, I think, a list of 8 more books to write. I
Fantastic.
haven't started my next one yet. In fact, I can tell you my next 2 books. My next book, one is going to be called The Art of Self-Love. And the other book is going to be called Live Happy, Healthy, and Inspired. And that book is going to I'm going to turn it into a metaphysical documentary. But I'm kind of waiting. The first book, Take Back Your Life, I want to let it, I want to give all my energy and attention to this
Yes.
book for at least the next, it's been 4 months already. So for probably at least the first year before I turn my attention
Yes.
and my energy to another book and another project. I've learned in life, part of my own wellness plan is not to overwhelm myself anymore and
Yes.
take on too much at once. And so I'll give my energy to this book for about a year and then slowly transition to writing my other book. And in the meantime, just kind of see where this book goes and what happens. And, if it leads to anything further, and kind of just, I try not to force the journey now, just kind of let the journey evolve
That's
naturally
the
and
best.
where the river takes me and everything. So, but like I said, I always enjoy meeting people like you, Maggie, and coming on these podcasts. And yeah, it's an honor. And now that I know about natural selection, I can't wait to go research that when we're done
You
here.
will love it. Now, there's so much. And you know what, Brad? I really want to invite you back again. This for me is really a platform I've created for incredible authors like yourself. For me, the frustration is these incredible books, that is out there, the resources out there, and to give a voice to you and your story and your book, because this is why you wrote it. You didn't know exactly why you wrote it, but now you
I
can see
did.
the impact.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. So they always say start with why, and I cannot
Yes,
agree with that. But I would say even if you don't know your why, start anyway, because
I love
later on
it.
at some point you're gonna figure out, you're gonna understand and learn your why. If you have it in the beginning, I mean that's probably better and more power to you. I had
Yes,
no why I wrote this book. I was just following divine instructions. Literally, that's all I know. Like I said, I had
incredible.
no intention to write it, and then I had no intention to publish it. It sat on the shelf for 2.5 years. That's a long time.
It's
I
a
could,
good wine right there.
yeah, I couldn't, yeah, maybe it was aging like a fine wine, but I couldn't even
Yes,
remember the title. Like I said, I opened up my computer that one day about second week of January, maybe after those 2 words, publish it. That's all. It just is booming, publish it. Like I didn't even
incredible.
ask the question. Like I was just randomly going on about my everyday life. I just literally my hand was on my door to open it and just booming, just publish it. And I knew
That's
right away what that
amazing.
meant. And so then I just had to, yeah, like I said, it took me about 2.5 hours to find the file again on my computer because I just couldn't remember anything about it. So
I love it, Brad. This is why this series is created, the behind the pages, the truth, because for some, and this really is a stigma almost, is it's easy to write. And your why is so clear, it's like, that's why I laughed, ugly laugh when you started, because like I said, I also published a book this year that I didn't think initially I will,
yeah.
publish. And that's the reality as well, as you are guided. And if you are guided to publish, do it. You don't know on the other side of that obedience, what's waiting for you. And you at the end of the day, you can use this to help others and inspire others.
Yeah, well, thank you again. And I would say anyone listening, if you want to start a wellness journey, if you want to take back your life, your well-being, you're starting with your health, your physical health, give this book a go and just see what it can do for you. There's no place like the present to start, I guess. And again, it's a safe, slow, easy, sustainable way. It's the exact methods and techniques that I've used in my life over 15 years to lose weight, to keep weight off, to stay motivated, to keep the journey going. So many people start a wellness journey, but
Yeah,
after six days or 6 weeks or 6 months or even a year or something, they quit, they fall back off the horse. This book teaches you what I like about my book, if I could just brag about it for a
of
second,
course, please do.
is is it teaches you how to coach yourself
That's
because
amazing.
none of us have, indisposable funds. None of us have access to a professional like me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Even if you hire me for 12 weeks or whatever, 6 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever that is, at some point that journey is going to end. And the training wheels, the metaphor I like to use, have to come off and you have
Yes,
to be able to ride the bike by yourself. This book teaches you how to ride the bike by yourself. This book will teach you how to coach yourself. This
that's
is the
amazing.
exact methods that I've used. Everything I've learned in every seminar I've been to with, Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield, just to name a few. Mark Divine is another one. Some of the big names I've been to. Whatever I learned from there that I think will help you, I put it in this book. Check it out. I always say, like, I love this quote from Bruce Lee: absorb what is useful, reject what is useless. Same, I would, say to your son, pick up the book. If you find something
Mhm.
that is useful, add it to your wellness toolbox. And if not, no big deal. Then it doesn't work for you. I've gone to a lot of seminars, classes, read a lot of books where I did just that. Oh, I like this part. I'm going to hold on to this, but oh,
Yes.
this part doesn't work for me. I'm not gonna worry about that part. So, but yeah, if you're someone looking to start a wellness journey, you don't know what to do, you don't know where to start, how to begin, any of that, I would say congratulations, because that was me 15 years ago. I
It's
didn't
a
have a
lot of us, we changed through the
yeah.
years, everything. I never struggled with weight, and suddenly, you're getting older, it's hormones, all that beautiful things with that.
And I will say here, I teach this program in the book called intermittent eating, which has been and slow easy movement. And those two things alone have been and I can't, if I really do the research, I could back this up with medical science, but those two parts of the book and the
Mm,
program alone will help with metabolic conditioning, resetting your metabolism and getting your metabolism to be what I call a lean, mean, fat burning machine. But it
wow.
will also help with hormone balance and restoring your hormone balances, regardless if you're a man or a woman. When it comes to things like weight, one of the most out of whack hormones that both men and women have is insulin.
Mm,
If you're eating what I call a modern, I'll call it the MAD diet, a modern American diet, which is a lot of high processed foods and carbs and things like that, your insulin hormone gets way out of whack. Intermittent eating, slow, easy movement will help get that insulin hormone back under control. And your other hormones start to just automatically kind of line up and balance themselves out. It's funny, we were talking before we came on air about South Africa and Botswana and some of the Bushman tribes and everything like that. A lot of what's in this book right here is based on their philosophy, their culture, their way of thinking.
no way.
I even talk about that in the book. Indigenous cultures. The
Wow.
whole book the whole idea of the wellness program that I created that eventually became this book, it started with this thought that, well, our indigenous cultures around the world, including the Bushmen, the Kung, the
What?
Kalahari, the Yanomamo in Brazil, the Cherokee here in Oklahoma, they are some of the healthiest when they're living their
Yes,
traditional lifestyle. They are some of the healthiest, fittest people on the planet. I understand now they're healthy mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all across the board. You look at modern day anthropological studies studying these cultures that are still living the traditional lifestyle.
yes,
You don't find heart disease. You don't find high blood pressures. You don't find cancers.
yes,
You don't find obesity. You don't find any of these things. You only find these in modern society where folks are eating a modern American diet. I call it the MAD diet.
yes,
And so I asked myself, well, what is it that they're doing that I need to copy, that I need to emulate? So I found a couple of things common. One, they're only eating natural based foods that come from
yes.
the earth.
Wow.
In their case, their foods are much more wild, much more organic than what we get at the supermarket. So they're much more mineral dense, much more vitamin dense than what we get here. But point being, they're eating natural organic foods. Two, they're always doing some sort of movement. They're always standing, walking, twisting, carrying, jumping because that's their lifestyle, that's their culture.
True.
A little trick that I put in the book that I learned when I was doing this program for myself is when you're in a hunter-gatherer society, one of the things that you're doing right before you're eating is you're hunting or you're gathering. You're hunting the food, you kill it, and then you eat it pretty much right on the spot. You preserve the rest and bring it back to the village. And so this is a little trick I put in the book that works really well. Every time before you eat, do some very light, easy, I'll call it cardiovascular type work. The easiest one is go for a walk around your neighborhood. Go for a walk on your treadmill if you have that. Uh, Go for some light housekeeping, vacuuming, cleaning, mopping the floor, something right before you eat. That's huge in
Yeah.
activating your metabolism. So they're eating natural foods. They're always moving. And then the third thing, this was fascinating when I studied these cultures, they're not eating breakfast, lunch, dinner every single day. That doesn't exist in
Wow.
these cultures. One day they may eat a meal, and I use in the book, I talk about meal one, meal two, maybe meal three. When your metabolism is burning, you're using fat for fuel, you don't really need more than 2 meals a day, to be honest.
Wow.
Sometimes even one meal a day. That is key to maintaining your weight. People do this 3 meals a day thing that they've been taught by Western society. And I'm just going to go on record and saying that's one of the biggest myths there is that you need 3 meals a day. You absolutely do not. And people will tell me about children nutrition, and I'll say, well, look at native indigenous children all over the world that are eating 1 meal a day. Um, there are some exceptions, but in a natural, traditional, healthy, affluent, thriving indigenous culture, the children are growing up just fine. They're growing up healthy
Mm.
and strong and fit, eating natural foods, once, twice a day, maybe sometimes 3 times a day. But I looked at not what they were eating, but when they were eating, how they were eating. Sometimes they would eat twice a day. Sometimes it would be in the morning and late at night. Sometimes it would be in the afternoon. Sometimes it was a very random pattern of eating. It wasn't based on this is breakfast time, this is lunchtime, this is dinner time. And so I created intermittent eating to follow the indigenous eating patterns. They ate when they had food. Because remember, they didn't always have food. And so they would wind up going without food for 1, 2, 3 days.
Yes.
And as we know now, intermittent fasting is the modern day term that they use, is proving to be very beneficial for health and for your metabolism and all of that. So this program naturally incorporates what they call intermittent fasting and things like that. So anyway, the program, yeah, Take Back Your Life is really based on native lifestyles around the world, living the
That's
traditional
amazing.
native lifestyle because they still are to this day the healthiest, fittest people on the planet, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So I just asked, what are they doing that I need to do? And so I modeled my life and my habits and my lifestyle after them, which ultimately led to all these different curriculums that I created, which ultimately led to the book Take Back Your Life. And then here we are
That's
today.
incredible. And thank you so much for sharing that, Brad. When I met the Bushmans, I was actually staring at their skins They
Yeah.
are in such good condition, and they
Yeah,
live in
no
the
body fat at
desert.
all. Yeah, yeah. And they can go, and this is fascinating because I've read some of the books, that I haven't gone down there, done any of the studies, but I've read the professors from various universities gone down there, live with the Bushmen, published their books, and
Wow.
they can go in 100-degree heat, they can go several days without food, without
Yes.
water because they're so conditioned, they are so adapted. And I'm not saying to go to that extreme, but I am saying to, look at what they're doing and copy it.
Yes.
If something works, copy it. There's a mentor of mine says success leaves clues. Well, this is a successful way of living a happy, healthy, inspired lifestyle is the Bushman lifestyle. So
Incredible. Listen, I feel so honored to have met you, and please come visit
yeah,
me again with your next
likewise, yeah,
book
we'll
or
keep in
even
touch for
a
sure.
next chat, about there's so much to unpack. If I look at my son, for example, he did boxing, and to
Oh, that's
see,
good. Yeah.
they have to lose weight or gain weight. And I was always very nervous, when I see certain techniques to lose the weight and stuff. So I really think your book will be beneficial to athletes as well, like that, for the weight, losing and
You
training
know,
almost.
um, for endurance athletes in particular, because the Bushmen, for example, in most native cultures are more on the endurance side of athletics. They
Yes.
go 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 kilometers, 500 kilometers, however far they go. Very different from a CrossFit athlete. I wouldn't necessarily recommend some of what I talk about and teach in this book for like a CrossFit athlete
Mm.
or jujitsu or even maybe a boxing athlete because they're using aerobic versus anaerobic system, so it's a
Okay.
little bit different. But certainly an endurance athlete, burning fat for fuel, and certainly anyone that my goal now with health is longevity. I want to be as healthy as possible, as mobile, as flexible, as strong, as agile for as long as possible so that I can continue to, live independently, brush my own teeth, feed
Yes.
myself, go to the store, all those things. We have a huge problem in America, and it's kind of slowly disseminating to the rest of the world. Our senior population, as they hit 70, 75, they're losing a lot of what I just said. They're losing their independence. They're losing their
Mm.
mobility. I mentioned I had a doctor appointment this morning. I'm just going through my, regular men's health checkup and all this. So going to a couple different doctors to check sleep, to check eye, ears, nose, throats, all that. And this morning, as I'm walking into the clinic, I'm 52 and I'm, for the most part, very fit and healthy and all of that. I'll admit, age, I feel my age sometimes. But I was walking into the clinic, I was interacting and coming across people in my age group between 50 and 65 who were not, you could just tell by looking at them, they were not in good condition.
Yes.
Not at all. And a couple of them were overweight. That's quite common here. But ultimate goal of my book, Take Back Your Life, is longevity, a safe, slow, easy, sustainable program that will last the test of time, that will sustain you
Absolutely.
through your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, and even your 80s and beyond. And it will keep you, if you follow the program verbatim, you're welcome to modify, adjust whatever works better for you. But if you follow that program, I can say with a lot of confidence, you will be living happy, healthy, and inspired well into your 60s, 70s, and your 80s and whatnot. Barring, who knows, anything in life can happen, but all things considered, this program will sustain you well into your 60s, 70s, and 80s. And here in America, at least, we're just not seeing that anymore. A lot of people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, chronic health issues, heart
Mm.
disease, cholesterol issues, obesity, which leads to things like joint issues, arthritis, all of that stuff. So,
No, it's a real threat, a reality for so many people's health. And I absolutely love your title. Brad, if anyone wants to contact you after your interview, how can they reach you online?
yeah, thank you so much, Maggie. The easiest way to reach me online is through Facebook. Just go to Facebook and search my name, Brad Carlson. You'll find my profile there. It's just my professional profile. You can click follow, and then you'll get all my messages. And then from there, you can message me directly. So that's the easiest way.
Amazing. And your book, where can we find your book to buy that?
So right on my Facebook page is the link to my book, but you can go to Amazon, search my name, Brad Carlson, and just look for the title, Take Back Your Life.
That's amazing, Brad. For those who tuned in and want to take back their life, would you recommend? What's the first step?
Ask the question, who am I? Discover who you are, and then go from there. Because in the beginning, like I said, I thought it was about weight loss, but I could not have been
Wow.
more wrong. It's about becoming who you are. And who I was in the beginning, I later realized was I am health. I am healthy. And that's the identity. And later on, I added healthy, happy, and inspired. But the
That's
first thing I would
amazing.
say, chapter 2 in the book is choose your identity, figure out who you are.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Brad. I hope to have you back again soon, especially when we
Yeah.
start the new year, for new
Yeah, I would love to.
resolutions and
We'll keep in
tips.
touch. Yeah, we'll keep in touch. Thank you, Maggie, very much for this opportunity. I've been wanting to share this story for a long time. Thank you very much for allowing me that.
That's amazing. What an honor. Thank you for joining me, Brad. And for those of you tuned in today, what an incredible reminder, that you are in charge of you can take back your health. And by taking back your health, you do so much more. You choose you above all. So I really want you to be encouraged by Brad and also to support him by buying his book and to learn, from the Bushmen and the other people around the world. We can learn so much from each other. And the aim is to live happy, healthy, and inspired. That's the key words. So keep on writing, keep on shining, and thank you so much for joining us.
Just watch me shine.